All right, everybody, good evening, and welcome to episode number 36 of the Below the Yellow Line podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Laney Pavlon. Justin Himbert and Austin Lampante will be with us tonight. We have special guest Robbie Noonan, Race Day 2011, his YouTube channel. He was on with us before back in August and will rejoin us later this evening. He is a little late, so there's that. And we do apologize for the late start of this podcast due to the Snowball Derby, which was in progress. We were originally going to do it at 7 o'clock Eastern, and then 7:30 once we learned that the race was moved to 5 p.m. the following day due to rain,
Yeah.
and then the race had a very slow ending to it, which is
Yeah.
why we pushed it to 8 o'clock, and then 15 minutes after our time that we posted. So we do apologize for the late time, but we're here. There's not much to cover this weekend, but a lot to talk about, and we have breaking news with Martin Truex Jr.'s crew chief. We'll start with that right now. Cole Pern, the Canadian crew chief who delivered the championship to his driver Martin Truex Jr. in 2017 for Barney Visser's team, and of course tagged along with him in 2019 on their move to Joe Gibbs Racing after the team shut down, has left NASCAR entirely. As an announcement has been made earlier this afternoon that Cole Pern will no longer stay as crew chief heading into the 2020 season. Let's hear your takes, guys.
Even though I really don't like Truex at all, or Copern, not saying I really hate them, I just don't really like their just personality. I'm truly seriously shocked about this. I didn't really see this coming. I seen them. I would have seen them win for the next 2-3 years at least. This was an interesting way heading to the 2020s decade of racing in NASCAR as well. Justin.
Yeah, I literally did not expect Cole Pern to leave NASCAR because he's only started his crew chief career in the Cup Series in 2015. Let me go search up.
And when he clicked with Martin Truex Jr., they really clicked. They did things that you could never expect them to do. Their chain like Furniture Row, and they in fact exceeded so much expectations, winning the championship, of course, in 2017 and being all dominant from 2015, 2016 on the racetrack leading laps. But what we saw from them in 2019, even their first year together at Joe Gibbs Racing, was beyond remarkable. How they were able to lead all those laps, win 7 times, and just look. I mean, they were so quietly solid out there, like a fixture in the top 5.
Cole Pern.
Mm-hmm.
He actually is only.
They've been a perfect couple ever since. Ever since 2015, I think. Was it 2015?
2012, he was actually the engineer of the 78 in 2012 to 2013. 2012 to 2014. So he knew Martin Truex Jr. already. He'd then been promoted to crew chief 2015, which really did good.
So he's been with, and if you look back, and like you mentioned, he worked with Furniture Row since 2012. Maybe the adjustment to living in North Carolina, Joe Gibbs Racing, versus Denver, Colorado, because you have an outside life one way or another.
Yeah,
having that outside life outside of racing in Colorado was taken away with the closure of Furniture Row Racing, and maybe the readjustment to North Carolina was right. It's not my place to judge, but there's certain factors that go into this. Think about 36 race weekends, 36 weekends. Okay, out of 52, you do the math. 36 or 52 minus 36, and that number, that difference, is the number of weekends he has to himself. Yeah. And even then, he's in the shop. You have to devote your whole time to NASCAR.
Yep.
I don't think really everyone knows that he was a former gas car driver as well, since he did live in Canada,
Yeah,
which I really didn't know about for a long time.
he, he ran 27 races, I guess, from 2000 to 2003, which his best finish in the series is sixth. Twice. He got two sixth place finishes and a 10th. He only has three top tens and 27 starts in 4 years. But, like, he does want to be with
Sorry,
his
farmer.
family. He's 37. Do you know what's interesting about that? He's 27 at 37 years old. Carl Edwards was the same age. He was 37 also. Edwards was 37 when he decided to retire. He was 37. The same age as Cole Pern is right now.
It's very interesting. So we'll talk about them later because we just got done watching the 52nd annual Snowball Derby in Pensacola, Florida,
And
and wow, what a race that was from
thank
start
you
to finish.
to that
Those fans who waited a day to watch that event because it was supposed to be yesterday, they got their money's worth.
and thank you to that Twitch streamer that decided to stream it for the
Hmm.
people that
Yeah,
can't
let's not
afford
give
it.
it away.
Yeah, just yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say I didn't really watch the whole lot of it because I was either working or eating food, but just to finish,
That was
wow.
interesting. It
And
was interesting.
congratulations, Stephen Nasse. He won really. The race was really revolved around three different drivers. We had, of course, Casey Roderick early in the race, then Jeff Choquette, and then
Time
Ty
Majestic,
Majeski, who had that heartbreaking crash with the
Casey
um
Roderick, yeah, Casey Roderick
yeah,
on the back.
he was also involved in the wreck. It was tough because Ty Majeski was close to taking that white flag and having that race official before the two cars spun into turn one, which
Yeah,
resulted in the caution that came out, and then eventually he spun. I mean, the track at Five Flag Speedway, remember, as Ronnie Osmer said in our last episode, you have to get on the gas for the restart while you're doing turn four, not
yeah,
on the straightaway, but while you're exiting the corner.
Yeah,
It's
it's
very
pretty
tricky.
weird how they restarted at that time.
yeah.
Now, of course, it's a short track.
You're gonna give that bumper one way or another, and if you didn't give the bumper to the people ahead of you, chances are you're not gaining any spots, and that's just short track racing for you. So here's the top 10 look like this. Of course, we had Nase getting the win over Travis Braden. Then Garcia was third place, Butcher fourth, and Utility was in
Okay.
fifth. You have Peltier, Chandler Smith, Casey Roderick, Hunter Robbins, and Fredrickson were your
And
top 10.
then
And
we had
let's go ahead and take a look at the results here. As we speak, they are unofficial. Well,
yeah.
I guess the live timing went away, so
I'm looking at it right here. After that, we have Boris Jurkovic, Dalton Zer, Derek Griffith, Ty Majeski, and Jeff Choquette the top 15. Derek Thorne, Giovanni Bramante, John DeAngelis, Derek Krause, and Matt Craig the top 20. Brad May, Michael Atwell, Cole Moore, Jeremy Doss, Lucas Jones, Bubba Pollard, Caden Honeycutt, David Gillen, Audrey Grill, and Josh Berry are the top 30. And then the rest of the results, 31 to 37, we have Connor Okresic 31st, Corey LaJoy 32nd, Jeremy Pate 33rd, David Rogers 34th, Rodrigo Rehan 35th, Kyle Bott 36th, and last place finisher was Corey Hyman, the number 78. After I don't know what happened to Heim, but Kyle Plott, I saw him hit the wall.
right, there were some early race cautions that took place that affected both of those last place finishers.
Also,
So there you have it.
Also, me and Joseph's pick my pick Corla Joy got 32nd, and Joseph's pick David Gillen got 28th. So our picks did not do good. They
No,
were
they haven't.
Joy was up front until his issue.
Yeah,
LaJoy,
something broke in that car and he never recovered.
yeah, LaJoy actually was like in the top 10, top 5 until something broke on the car and he was out of the race,
Hmm.
which really sucked.
So that said, let's take a look at some of the support races that happened at the Snowball Derby. So let's kick it off with the modified 75, and you had Audrey Grill, who actually won that race over Stickler, Bennett, Ruble, and Johnny Walker. And the Outlaws had a 50-mile race that took place. There was a B main event, and Brooke Stoner won over Paul Jean, Briggs, Loveday, and Lee Carter. And then the race itself, John Hill won over Betsia Jr., Brusso, Henderson, and Gorman Jr.
Yep.
And then the Pro Trucks had a 50-mile race, which was won by Hashkin, G. Thompson, Hamrick, Jared Parker, and Brusso. Then we had the Pure Stock 35 that took place. Mike Moody won over Goff Jr., Courtney Balcom, and Norman. And then, of course, we go on to the final race that was under 100 miles. So you had the Dock of Pensacola Sportsman 50, won by Latham, Chad Robinson, Huffmaster, Tawny Blocker, and Cochran. And then here was the top 20 finishers of the main support race of the Snowball Derby, the Alan Turner Hyundai Snowflake 100, won by Derek Thorne over Audrey Grill, Sammy Smith, South, Stephen Nash, Bubba Pollard, Jackson Boone, Oakley, Jake Johnson, Kyle Plott, Nolan Leak Dye, Mason Diaz, Dustin Smith, Rayhan, McCoy, Griffin, McCallum, and Chris Hacker. And it was a very tight race in the Snowflake 100.
Yeah, we had 37 cars in total. We had some.
It's a lot for a short track like that.
There's some drivers that I know that I've seen race before, like in big NASCAR series, like Kyle Plott, Brandon Oakley, Mason Diaz, Jay Griffin. Also, he was in that race. Carson Hosar. Well, Justin Bonnet was actually involved in the crash. Fiery accident.
Very, and we're going to talk about Justin Bonnet too, because he is in the hospital with a serious injuries and burns after the horrifying crash. He is the grandson of the late Neil Bonnet. Yep. So we do hope for a speedy recovery for Justin Bonnet.
Yep.
Let's take a look and see. We have this outlook of short track racing. It's a very chilly night in Pensacola, Florida.
It was. It was quite cold.
I mean, it's winter. What do you expect up here?
But I saw people in shorts.
Yeah, but they're crazy.
I mean, it is 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It wasn't the coldest,
but it's colder than probably some years it's hotter.
Some years it's even more chilly because it's the Florida Panhandle compared to most of Florida, and from where I'm at, South Florida is completely different when it comes to winters.
It's actually 70 right now, so it wasn't that cold. Because if I would have been there, I would have been in shorts. Because that's
me too.
Like Canadians,
takes a lot for people, even like me, to get in shorts in the cold.
I remember I've been in shorts in the cold in Florida once. It was like 50, and then people were looking at me crazy. And I saw people wearing winter jackets at a bus stop when it was 50 degrees. Like, what the hell are they doing?
That's not uncommon down here. We usually get people bundle up in Florida, even when it's 60 Fahrenheit or even 70 Fahrenheit. Because I know in the morning it's pretty cold, but once the afternoon comes around, what the hell are you going to do to that jacket? It's going to make you all hot and take up space. I usually leave the jacket home.
Yep.
I know for you guys it's a little different because winter's here to stay.
Yep. This is interesting. There's actually going to be 31 cars. If you don't know, there's actually a race this weekend. The 8 hours at Bahrain is this weekend. The 8 hours, the FOPCO 8 hours at Bahrain will have 31 entries this weekend. We'll see. That is Saturday morning for if you're in America.
And what time would that be for us?
It said 6:30 Eastern, but the green flag starts at 7 a.m. Eastern because it's 8 hours. For me, where I live, it would be 8 a.m. But in Eastern time, it's 7 a.m. Eastern is the start. But
So I'm
basically,
looking for a live. Looking
oh,
for the provisional entry list, which is on
I
lemans.org.
amongst.
Oh, I found the PDF file, and you guys, I'm gonna put in the chat for you too.
Yeah, then I could see who's in and
There you
some.
go.
Yeah, because some entries I'm like, who the heck is this person?
So for the classes,
Oh,
we have 31 cars total.
there we go.
5 cars in the LMP1 class, 9 in the LMP2, 6 in the GT Pro class, and 11 in the GT AM, which makes up the 31 total. So, the LMP1 class, we have Rebellion Racing, who came off that win in Shanghai just over a month ago. And then you have the two Team LNT entries from Great
Which,
Britain,
which
number
by the way,
5 and number 6, driving Janettas.
yeah, which their entry on this entry list was actually posted way earlier.
This was November 14th, so I'm sure things have changed.
I've looked on their actual website that says entries, but it just says the last name. So there's drivers and confirmed, which the both Toyotas, it's the same lineup. Conway, Kobayashi, and Lopez in the 7. Then you have Buemi, Nakajima, and Hartley in the 8. So Toyota is the same lineup.
Now, with the regulation changes, would they be able to catch up with the rebellion?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll
Because
see.
I know it was a little controversial move that the FIA made to change the regulations on the power of the cars. And
It was weird seeing.
Oh, I'm
Wait,
not
wait.
surprised.
Was last race a Rebellion that won last race?
yes,
Yeah, I was shocked. I didn't
the
expect
lone rebellion.
Nobody expected Rebellion to win. Everybody said, "Oh, Toyota's gonna win the whole season." Rebellion wins the race, and then people are just shocked, most likely.
Trigger.
But if you remember, at the Fuji race, they actually had an out qualified time
That's true. I remember that.
and were doing some faster laps, even though they lost to Toyota.
Yep. Yeah, that was weird. That they had
Raised
speed.
a lot of eyebrows, and the
Yeah.
people who raised their eyebrows were kind of certain this was going to happen at Shanghai, and it did.
Yep.
Exactly.
Let's take a look at what we have in the LMP2 entries.
We have the
The
United.
22 United Autosports, of course,
Yeah.
they're always a good pick. You know, guys like Felipe Albuquerque, Paul DeResta, Philip Hansen. You have
The G Drive.
experience.
Yeah, G Drive Racing is racing with Roman Rusinov, Job Van Etert, and Jean-Eric Verne in the number
It's
26.
got the former F1 driver on that list. Racing
Racing
Team Netherlands, all Dutch drivers.
Fritz Van Erd, Guido van der Gaard, and Nick De Vries. Good lineup. Then we have High Class Racing's number 33 of Mark Patterson, Kenta Yamashita, and Anders Forgeback. Singatec Alpine Alpha has Thomas Laurent, Andre Negro, and Pierre Rogs. And then the 37 Jackie Chan DC Racing, we have Hopin Tung, Gabriel Aubry, and Will Stevens. And then Joda, number 38, has Roberto Gonzalez, Antonio Felix Acosta, and Anthony Davidson. The 42 Cool Racing has Nicholas Lapierre, Antonin Borga, and Alexandra Kongi. Settler Racing's number 47 has Roberto Lacorte, Andrea Bellici, and Giorgio Sernagiotto. Then now we move on to the sixth LMGT Pros. We have the 51 AF course driven by James Collado and Alexandro Pierguidi. 71 AF course driven by David Regon and Miguel Molina. The 91 Porsche GT team driven by Gianna Maria Bruni and Richard Leitz. 92 Porsche of Michael Christensen and Kevin Estre. Then we have the Aston Martin number 95, driven by Marco Sorensen and Nicky Team. And then the 97
Yep.
Aston Martin Racing, driven by Alexander Lynn and Maxime Martin. And then we get to the LMP GTE AMs, the 11 of them. We have the 54 AF course, driven by Thomas Floor, Francesco Castellesi, and Giancarlo Fischella. Then we have the 56 Team Project 1, driven by Eggio Perfetti, David Heinmeier Hansen, and Matteo Caroli. Then we have the 57 Team Project 1 car, driven by Ben Keating, Larry Ten Voord, and Jaron Bleekemolen. Then we have the 62 Red River Sport Ferrari, Bonami Grimes, Johnny Molam, and Charles Hollings. The 70 Ferrari for MR Racing, we have Motoaki Ishikawa, Olivier Breda, and Keith Cozzolino. Then we have the 77 Porsche, the Dempsey Proton Racing Porsche number 77, driven by Christian Reed, Ricardo Pera, and Matt Campbell. The 83 AF Course Ferrari 488 GTE Evo, joined by Francois Perotto, Emmanuel Collard, Nicholas Nielsen, and then we have the 86 Gulf Racing Porsche, driven by Michael Wainwright, Andrew Watson, and Benjamin Barker. Then the 88 Dempsey Pro-On Racing car, driven by Thomas Preining and two unknown drivers. The number 90 TF Sport, driven by Saleh Yalouk, Charles Eastwood, and Jonathan Adam. And then the 98 Aston Martin Racing car, Paul Dallalana, Darren Turner, and Ross Gunn will share the number 98. Those are the 31 entries for the 8 hours of Bahrain on Saturday.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a competitive race because you don't normally see an 8 hour race. Usually the races sit at 6, 12, 24 hours.
We've seen 4 this season, but
But
8,
now, yeah, for this season,
8,
we've seen 4 hour races
but
taking place of some of the 6 hour races. It used to be a 6 hour event.
we'll also
And,
see another 8 hour race at
Yep.
in March of 2020 at Sebring. But
correct.
also, if you didn't hear about WEC, Sao Paulo has been replaced with a race on February 23rd at Coda.
I feel like they made the right decision to not only change the track, but to change the date.
Yeah,
Because
instead of,
to no longer they will clash with the Bathurst 12 hours and the
yeah,
Super Bowl.
it's going to be a really good. I feel, and also one thing that's interesting about,
Oh yeah, you want to know about the history of the 8 hours of Bahrain?
huh? Let me just.
Here's something I found. The first race was in 2012, won by Audi Sport, back when they had the LMP team, and last year was won by Toyota Guzzi Racing. They were all 6 hour events leading up to this year. And most wins for drivers are a three-way tie with 2 wins apiece. All Toyota drivers: Stefan Sarazan,
Wait,
Sebastian Bueme, and Anthony Davidson.
wait,
And for wins/make, because they're factory teams, Toyota with 3, Audi with 2, Porsche has 1.
wait. I'm confused. They only raced at Bahrain last time in 2017.
Yep.
They did not race in 2018. What? Where
I
did they?
swear, my unconscious mind says they raced in 2018.
Let me go check.
It's crazy.
Oh, you're right. They didn't race last time.
Really? They went to Shanghai. Wait, that's the wrong track.
No, because they had Spa twice.
Oh yeah, they had Spa twice, which the second Spa race
So
had
not last
snow.
year, but last race was there.
2017. Remember when they had the second, not the first race at Spa, the second race at Spa?
Well, they were on the same calendar dates.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the 2019 Spa race on May 4. Remember when there was me, you, and
Snow.
Blake were watching and it was snowing? I'm like, where does. Well, okay. And also, interesting about that, every time we picked a good GTE car, they don't win.
I know.
Recently in GTE AM, it's been the 90. The 90 TF Sport car was winning.
They're on.
Which I
They were
wonder.
so good. In fact,
It's,
the point standings. Why don't we take a look at the championship standings
yeah, it's been a while.
as we speak? Um, in the LMP1 championship, Toyota Gazoo Racing has 70 points over Rebellion Racing with 43, and Team
Oh,
LNT has 29 points in third. In the GTE championship, Porsche has 114 points claimed, while Aston Martin has 92 points and Ferrari has 55 points. And then, of course, for the um, LMP2 championship, Racing Team Netherlands has a 2 point lead over Jackie Chan Racing. And then third place is Cinetep Alpine Elf. Cool Racing, Jota Sport, fourth and fifth. United Auto Sports is sixth, while High Class Racing, the Danish team, is seventh, and Cittiler Racing from Italy is an eighth. And then in the GTAM class, we have the TF Sport Aston Martin have a 3 point lead over the, of course, a Ferrari. And then all the way back in third, 34 points claimed is Team Project 1. Aston Martin Racing is fourth, and MR Racing is fifth. You have Team Project 1 in sixth. Patrick Dempsey's team, the Dempsey Proton Racing, number 77, is in seventh. Gulf Racing, number 86, is eighth. AF Corsa 54, Ferrari is ninth. Dempsey Proton Racing, number 88, is 10th. And Red River Sport is in 11th with 5.5 points. So those guys have to catch up. Think about it.
Tough to say.
Just gotta go. I mean, we're halfway in the season now. This is gonna be round 4 of 8. And in Bahrain, so this will paint the picture of what's to come. We know who's in this championship fight. All the teams that are listed in the championship have raced all the events so far, which is pretty unusual when it comes to endurance racing because usually they're selective on what races and sanctioned series that they run.
yep, the race is at 7 a.m. Eastern. I was just checking. So after this race is actually, do you want to, the race at Circuit of the Americas for WEC is actually going to be called the Lone Star Le Mans. That's the name of the race, Lone Star
And
Le
they
Mans.
used to race there in the past. In fact, so did the championship IMSA holes in North America.
Which into that track.
They used to run in the same weekend.
And now after COTA, since 2019, they raced at Mid Ohio for the IMSA competition.
Yeah, when they had their schedule change. But going back to the Lone Star Le Mans, it's a 6-hour race.
Yep. Then after that, we had the 8-hour race, the 1,000 miles of Sebring. Then we have the race again at Spa. Hope there's no snow in Spa again. There is. Well, it's going to be
Historic.
interesting. And then after the Spa race, we go to Le Mans, last race of the season again.
24 hours long, wrap up the year.
And
There's a lot of things going on. I believe. How do I word it? Like, this is just a year, kind of a gap year for many teams because you got to think big picture. The hypercar class is coming pretty soon.
Yep.
And you got to get your game ready.
Yeah, and the WEC season is only a short season. It's not short compared to the Asian Le Mans series. The Asian Le Mans series has 4 races in the season.
Right, and it's usually a fast season just for highlight races.
Also,
The WEC, you got to get your game on because other teams are watching what you're doing as much as you're watching the other teams. And the 24 hours of Le Mans, it's a come and go kind of deal. You got to get ready for the Le Mans race.
But it's 24 hours. It's a lot of time. It's not like a short 4-hour race. It's not like the 1 hour 40-minute races like at Long Beach and it's not like the 1 hour 40-minute race at Long Beach or Detroit or the Northeast Grand Prix at at Lime Rock. It's not short races like that. It's 24 hours. It's a long time. Like you could be leading by like 3-4 laps and still possibly lose the race if you have a mechanical failure. Because if you're like leading with 10 hours left and you have a mechanical failure, most likely you're not going to win the race by like having a 3-4 lap lead and blow up around 10 hours left. They could catch up and get more laps on you and lose the race.
Absolutely.
Like
We've seen that all the time.
remember 2016 when Toyota's car number 5 had an issue with 3 minutes left on the line and they got passed by the number 2 car for the win. That was heartbreaking for Kazuki for who was it?
Suzuki Nakajima and the Toyota guys.
Yeah. Oh, he was
And
on
then in
the
2017, they broke the track record. And
yeah,
then, of course, hours in the race, all three of the cars
yeah, they had
during different portions of the race
yeah, they had
slowly phased out with engine failures
yeah, they had a third car, number 9 car, and they all the 7, 8
just to
F1
ensure that they would have some chance to win the race.
they all had engine issues. Last year they won with the 8, but the 7 was so close to win. And so they told the 7 not to pass the 8, which people say that Team Warriors, I don't know if it
I
was.
know I was a little bit iffy about that, but at the same time, they still won the race. And Le Mans is a team sport. I think we all watched Ford versus Ferrari
Yeah,
as it's been out in theaters, and it's kind of clear that Ken Miles, Denny Hulme,
yeah,
even though many people say, in their eyes is the real winner, they told the four guys to line up to take, a picture, a staged finish, which is not uncommon at all in Le Mans. And that happened at the expense of Ken Miles and Denny Hulme.
yeah. And also about Le Mans, we're not going to see any broken records like remember before
Never
the
say never,
you
but
know
keep
the Mul-
talking.
the Mulsanne Straight used to be there was
Getting
no
there.
mini chicanes there. There was a car in the 1980s or 70s that went 248 miles per hour, 400 kilometers, but it broke down in the race. Or you're not going to
I
see this.
mean, and plus you can't really go so
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, because you have the
There's only,
chicane.
well, back
Or else
then
you'll
you
be
didn't.
somersaulting in
Yeah,
the air.
but there's also another thing. There was an Alfa Romeo that somehow won a Le Mans race by a mechanic. There was a fuel leak, so a mechanic put a piece of chewing gum, and he somehow won. That Alpha won the race because they put a piece of chewing gum there, and the fuel did not leak out somehow.
Yeah, I bet you they probably axed you with a disqualification if you did that today.
Yeah, that
Knowing the
would
era of instant replay and
be
how regulations must be this and this and that and that.
like the FIA is like, nope, you're not gonna win by doing that. So yeah,
No.
which 8 hours of Bahrain will be interesting. We have 31 entries. I guess 2 days from now will be practice 1. If anybody wants to watch it, if you can't get on TV, just find a Twitch live stream. Don't go on YouTube because
They'll act
FIA,
it pretty quickly.
FIA, the FIA sees one copyright. So
Boom.
look
Gone.
on look on Reddit, look on Twitch. Just put WC Bahrain. Just don't find it. Just try to find one.
Okay. We'll get back in the endurance racing talk definitely because when Robbie comes in, we'll definitely open that conversation. But let's talk about some other headlines that took place this weekend. Um, Formula One. The Ferrari team was fined 50,000 euros
Oh,
after an illegal, inaccurate fuel declaration found in Leclerc's car at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
oh my!
Hmm.
Wow.
That's no surprise.
Oof.
You really got to play by the rules.
Yep, you can't do anything like that because it's not the smartest and brightest idea.
It was an illegal piece found in Charles Leclerc's car, even though
Oh,
he finished third and made it on the podium. The
oh,
position stayed after a post-race meeting with the Ferrari team,
oh my God!
but
I just
the fine stayed.
I just forgot about Toro Rosso's name change.
Isn't
Alpha.
AlphaTauri?
Yep, AlphaTauri Honda. Scuderia AlphaTauri Honda. So try to remember that for 2020. I don't even know why they changed
I
their
mean, the
name.
transition from Force India to Racing Point
Well,
F1 wasn't that hard of
but AlphaTauri, I don't know who's gonna remember about that. Like AlphaTauri. Oh, it's gonna be kind of confusing.
ALPHA, not like Alfa Romeo.
Yeah. Oh, I guess Ferrari's not just Ferrari now. It's Scuderia Ferrari Mission Winnow. They changed their name. They just added a couple phrases.
Yeah, mostly due to sponsorship.
Okay. Williams is still Rocket Williams.
Yeah,
Rocket.
Rocket Team Williams.
Oh yeah, Rocket. Yeah, they're gonna be so fast next year.
They're
No.
not. It hasn't lived up to the name, unfortunately.
Yep.
But they will have a new driver in place of the veteran Robert Kubica, which is Nicholas Latifi, who did a very good job in the F2 championship this year.
Other the MCL 35, the new McLaren car, will start next year. It
It will
just
be their
got
last year with Renault engines,
yeah.
as they'll return to Mercedes for the first time since 2014.
Renault's gonna use their new RS20 next season and 22 races in F1, which they have one more. There's one more race that hey, this is interesting. The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix will actually finish November 29th, not December 1st like this year.
Well, I mean, 29th and December 1st are usually around the same weekend,
The US
same
Grand
weekend time.
US Grand Prix is a week earlier than Mexico. Mexico is now November 1st.
So it was like 2018 when the U.S. Grand Prix was before the Mexican Grand Prix. They just switched the dates.
Canadian Grand Prix. Oh,
Yeah, unfortunately,
Lamar
it was.
in Canada, and then Sonoma in the Cup Series, and then Iowa. Oh my God, that's gonna be a
I'm
long
not a
weekend.
fan of that. To be
Oh,
really
oh,
honest, yeah, it's a
that's
big race weekend. But listen, I feel like if there's anything that a racing sanction tries their hardest to avoid is a conflict with the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Unfortunately, supercars and the NASCAR Xfinity and Truck Series had a conflict with Le Mans. Those were the only two sanctioning bodies that I was aware of. Most, like we know, NASCAR, F1, NASCAR. In fact, they had 2 years off for Le Mans, and it sucks that they're gonna with the obviously regardless of the situation, the 2020 schedule would have to
Yep.
do Mons a
well,
conflict.
you
But
know,
I really hope for whatever they got in 2021 that they'll have a weekend off for Le
you
Mans
know,
again. Like IndyCar always has one off.
you know,
F1 usually does that. I know 2016 they didn't, and I wasn't a fan of that.
no, the Australian Grand Prix. Usually that is 2 weeks at Bahrain's usually 2 weeks after. This year, Bahrain is only a week after, so it's only the next week.
Right, because they go to their Asian tour. They
Yeah,
have is it Vietnam before
So
China?
yep, Vietnam, then China. Then they go on May 3rd, they go to the Dutch Grand Prix. The week after, they go to Spain. Then it's Monaco. Azerbaijan is before Canada, so they go to Azerbaijan and then Canada. Then Paul Ricard and the rest of the season until
My honest
Brazil.
opinion, I think they should have put Azerbaijan back to where they used to be
Yeah, it
and
used to be
move Canada a week before.
it used to be race 4 for the Azerbaijan used to be where China is now, but China was race 3, and then they
Due
put
to
Vietnam.
Vietnam, it changed.
And also, the U.S. Grand Prix is a week early. Mexico's after, like before. It was Mexico is race 20.
I mean, I like the schedule. Don't get me wrong. 22 races, that's a lot of races. Usually we see around 18, 20 every year.
We saw 21 last year, but people
But like,
say
I'm excited
Yeah.
because there's a lot of diverse racetracks. We get to see Zandvoort return with a new corner. They're still in progress of their getting ready for their banked corner.
and a new track as well. That should be
Yeah.
street course, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Vietnamese Grand Prix. I can't wait. But the pluses are there. We got Robbie here. He's about to join us in just a minute. But I feel like the only problem I have with the F1 calendar is that the NASCAR. I mean, NASCAR does the same thing. It's the conflict of 24 hours of Le Mans. All right, and here is Robbie Noonan. Welcome back to the podcast.
It's been a while, man, guys. How you guys been?
Good.
I'm good.
So, what am I missing so far? I guys talk about Le Mans and Formula One here. This sounds a pretty intriguing conversation.
Absolutely.
We're talking about how it's going to be conflict in the 2020 Le Mans with Canada and F1, NASCAR at Sonoma, and races clashing, basically. And it's going to be a big weekend that weekend.
Oh, it's been a problem for the whole season. I mean, we got all these types of events clashing with each other. I mean, of course, you got the IndyCar race at Richmond in June, and you got the 6 hours at the Glen running the same weekend. And the same weekend, you're also having a NASCAR race on. It's been a common factor throughout the whole season that we're going to have clashes, and race fans have to choose. And race fans, quite frankly, shouldn't have to choose. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
And more work for us.
And it gives us more work. We got to squeeze in more content for the week, and it's crazy.
I mean, I listen. 2020 is usually that off season, like when it comes to your traditional race days, because I'm feeling a lot of rumors are floating around that 2021 in NASCAR is going to be completely different from what you see in 2020.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of rumors about that. I've heard either that, or I've heard hey, it's going to be sort of similar. There's not really been many changes.
I mean, let's face it. There's an Olympic break. I've never seen that before. They've never gone like 3 weekends off just because of the Olympic Games. I mean, they never really stated for that reason, but it's pretty obvious why they took the 3 weeks off in that same period of time.
Yeah, pretty weird.
It is weird, but guess who was broadcasting the races at that time period? NBC's broadcasting the
Exactly.
races.
And that's a pretty heavy project to do the Olympics.
Yeah, I think Lee Diffie's going to be all hands on deck going over to where they have an Olympics this year. I think it's somewhere
Tokyo.
in Japan. Tokyo.
Yeah, they were in Rio 4 years ago, and London, and then Beijing. Now we're in Tokyo.
It's going to be a big project for them. I can understand why they're taking 3 weeks off, but at the same token, we have the app and everything. It's like,
and
the app.
Hey, let's. Speaking of the Olympics, that brings me to my next conversation. This was announced earlier this morning, or for some late last night. Russia has given a 4-year ban from the IOC due to the doping scandal, which means if you watch the Olympic Games from 2018, the Russian athletes who were not in the bad of any of this can compete, but not under their flag. They'll be considered the Olympic athletes from Russia with an Olympic flag instead of their own country. So the scandals are there. We're going to see this for the next 2 Olympics. So that means 2020 Tokyo and then 2022 for Beijing and the Winter Olympic Games before their ban will be upheld.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. I didn't notice that this morning. Then
Yeah,
again,
I started as well.
Yeah, one thing I heard was the Russian Grand Prix wasn't going to be affected by it. That was pretty.
But there's some rumors that it could be. I really hope that's not the case. You hate to see another sport get affected by something else. At the same time,
and plus all that money they put into that track and everything, that street circuit. I mean, it's not
they
like
made the track because of the 2014 Olympic Games in Sochi. I mean, the track literally surrounds the venues they had their games in.
Yep, and that's what. Hopefully that track doesn't go away, because if that track goes away, then what the hell are they going to do with all that property? I mean, it's just going to be going abandoned, left to nothing. It's going to be.
I mean, that's kind of what some of their hockey rinks have been, and everything else that's gone with it. When a country hosts games, everybody has to put so much money and everything into it. A certain region, city, whatever it may be. It's a lot. It's a big project.
Oh, it is, and then once the Olympic Games are done, what's left used for those hockey rinks? So what's left for those those little, we call that curling rinks? They're all gonna be gone.
But think about Vancouver 2010. They managed it well. Some cities like even Calgary from 1988, they managed it good. Athens 2004. Beijing 2008. They all managed to carry on forward financially after the Olympic Games have finished. So it's not like all cities are bad, but when you host the Olympic Games, it either goes very good for your place financially or very bad.
Also, there was news that today Connor Daly has been announced to drive the road courses in the number 20 car for Ed Carpenter Racing. So he'll run, and also he'll run a third car during the Indy 500. He'll be in
I
a
think
third
that's
car.
going to be Connor Daly in that third car for the 500.
Yeah, that's what they said. Daly will run a third car in the 500 because Carpenter's in the 20. But the road courses that Carpenter does not run, Daly will run the road courses in the 20 and run a third car at the Indy 500, which I feel like it's good.
I feel like they're set.
Like Connor Daly, he has talent. He needs to.
He should be in a full-time ride. Many people do agree
But
when I say that he belongs in a full-time ride. For many years, he has not had that opportunity, and I think it's right that he gets back in one sooner than later. Although it's not full-time, it's a good gateway to getting a championship season ride.
you'll never know.
Absolutely. That car is very competitive. I mean, when Ed's not in the car, first of all, Ed Carpenter's not a road course guy. He's an oval specialist for a reason. And,
Came from the IRL.
yeah, really. Came from the IRL, and his family is literally related to the Holman George family. So, of course, this big success is going to come at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
And, I think with this performance we saw of Connor Daly at Gateway just proves to us that, I think, if you give this guy a good solid ride, because let's face it, Carlin's they're not really that top contender ride yet, honestly.
No, they're not good.
Not very good at all. So, if you put Connor in a good ride, I mean, he's going to score consistent rides. I mean, he might podium a couple races. He might be up in the top 5, top 10s, consistent. That's all that matters at this point, really. You got to get the guy consistent runs, and I think that Connor's that type of guy that's going to bring the car home. Because if Ed was on the road course races, he'd be in the back row every race.
Yeah.
Now this makes me ask about Renus VK.
He's a-
Is he truly ready to tackle this 17 race calendar?
I would have honestly put Connor in the full time ride, but I think what helps Rhinus VK, he didn't win the championship, did he last year? I think that was no, that was Ryan Norman, I think it was, or
I believe it was Norman.
no, it wasn't Norman. No, it was
Let me
who's
go
the guy
check.
with the award?
Oliver
Title award.
Askew, Oliver Askew.
Oliver Askew. Yeah.
he won it.
Yeah, that's who wanted. Yeah, sorry,
There
I
you go.
think for a solid minute there. Who was that? I think Askew won the championship. Of course, that's going to give him financial stability. Of course, with Aerosmith Peterson, how much more financial stability do you need, really, with McLaren and Arrow on board with them? But Rhinus, is he ready for a full-time season? I don't know. I mean, only time will tell. But I think if it were me, but at Carpenter Racing, I would put Connor in that full-time ride.
Yeah, me too. I feel like, this is either a hit or miss kind of deal. Should be interesting. Now, I guess my other question, Oliver Askew, he's now a step up. Aerosmith Peterson McLaren has changed their whole morale. They're in a Chevy engine. They're with McLaren. And they have 2 completely new drivers. So we already got like 5 new things held on this list here. And they lost their lead driver, James Hinchcliffe.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver Askew and Pato Award, I feel like they're the real deal for this team.
Well, it's fresh new blood on that team. You think about it, Pato Award is a guy who's going to tear the walls down and get a good lap in. First of all, on the ovals, he'll be scary. And on the road courses too, he'll be podium races. I think he'll be doing pretty well. Oliver Askew, I think it might take some time, but who knows? It might be a new Robert Witkins, where he just comes off at St. Pete and just goes off the bat, real fast.
Yeah, I feel like, Oliver Askew, I think he's ready also. But I don't know if he's going to be as good as Pato Award for some reason. And they also rumored a third car.
For the
I believe that's the Indy 500. I believe that's going to be Fernando Alonso. What do you guys have to say?
It could be Fernando. It all depends. Does he have any bad blood from last year's fiasco where he failed to qualify?
But I feel like they come prepared this time.
They'll come more prepared, especially now that they got the Schmidt Peterson backing on that one. Because they were completely on their own last time. They had the cars fielded by Carlin. Well, they were pretty much prepared them at the track.
They lost their first car, and then Carlin provided the backup.
And I guess the paint was not the right orange, they said.
So no go on practice.
and then
Yep.
qualifying that they were slower than nobody expected Kyle Kaiser to make the field. He got 33rd. He got the last
He
spot.
worked twice as hard to get in there.
Yeah, that 32, the Yonkos Racing Team wrecked their car, their primary car with no sponsors. They had sponsors and paint. They barely practiced. They had barely any qualifying laps, and they made the Indy 500.
They stole the show.
Like when I saw that car, I'm like, holy crap! Nobody expected them to make the field, and which,
It shows you how difficult it is to get in the Indy 500.
which,
Even a two-time world champion can miss it.
like I'm looking at the entries that are still possible for people. AJ Foyt, no drivers confirmed yet at the AJ Foyt team. We still have Carlin, no drivers known. Dale Coyne Racing, we don't know who's driving those cars
Listen,
because
I have a hot take on Dale Coyne Racing. I don't know,
because
Robbie, you've heard me say this before, but I believe James Hinchcliffe will be in one of those Dale Coyne cars. Hinchcliffe, of course, in Canada, he's a big endorser of Honda. That has always been. If you see Honda commercials up in Canada, most of the time,
yep,
Justin,
yep,
comprised of James Hinchcliffe.
yeah, he's in there in those commercials.
So I'm sure he's gonna. That means he's gonna stay with a Honda team.
But we also
Dale
have
Coyne Racing has the best chance for him
yeah, and
to turn
also
the team morale around.
yeah, but there's also still is Santino returning?
That's
That is
another
the
good
question.
question.
We don't know if he's returning.
What we do know is that four-time champion Sebastian Bourdais will not compete for that fifth title in 2020.
Jack Harvey, Jack Harvey will run the full season in Meyershank Racing number 60.
Yeah, I feel so behind.
Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan, two full-time cars. Ray Hall, and Sato stay at the Ray Hall team,
That's the
and
right decision.
and then we have three full-time Penske cars: Newgarden,
New
Power,
Garden Power and
And
Pageant. Those
yeah,
could be your three championship contenders right there that you just
the
read, Justin.
Penske guys.
As
They're
we learned from this last season,
oof,
they're like what Joe Gibbs Racing is to NASCAR in 2019. Just steady, consistent, and good. It's hard to impede on them. But, you get a fourth party guy like Alexander Rossi, who almost won the championship last year, coming in the picture.
It's
Scott
not a big
Dixon.
question. It's not a big question of if, but when he's going to win a championship, or when he's going to win a
Absolutely.
second 500.
Absolutely. The Indy 500 is usually that's Rossi's playground. I mean, even though in 2016 not too many people looked at him as a contender to win the race, he pulled it off of a fuel strategy. But I guess many believe that Rossi used his 2016 Indy 500 win as a reason to work twice as hard to prove to the world that he actually can drive a car and not just luck out and win the 500. And he did just that.
I think
And
he
here we
proved
are
that to me
today.
in 2017. I mean, when in 17, I saw him race in the front. I'm like, my God, this guy is no fluke. He's going to win a second one eventually.
oh come on, really? The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg will actually start at 3:30 Eastern, which is late compared to usual. Usually
Usually, the race
start
starts at 12.
yeah,
I
this
know.
year 3:30 Eastern.
Maybe due to TV deals, because I know ESPN would always put an NBA game on after
But then
or
NBC
ABC
now
after back in the
NBC
day, but now we got NBCSN. Maybe
yeah
they try to put the race on the main network for a change.
yeah it's
Mm-hmm.
NBC because the first main network race for the IndyCar is the IndyCar Grand Prix, and then the 500 qualifying, which I don't know how that'll go because you never know
Well,
who
it's an
might
all
be.
day thing,
Yeah,
unlike
but
most
most of
racing
most of
sessions.
it. What happens if most of it's not even on NBCSN? Most of it on the
We only had
NBC
like 1 hour.
Gold. Yeah, NBC
There
Sports
you have it. You
Gold.
want to pay $60 extra or something like that? Have
And
fun.
and the
There's a thing
short.
called Twitch for that.
Yep, Twitch. There's always Twitch. People on Twitch. And do you want to win
People
some?
on Twitch are amazing.
Yeah, like
I'll
today
tell
with
you that.
the Snowball Derby, there was a guy streaming it, which was really nice for the people that can't afford it.
And the stream was good too.
And also, it's about IndyCar. It's so weird how their schedule is 17 races.
Just like last
Final
year.
And final race September 20th. This time we have Richmond, which I don't know how that's gonna go. We'll see
Yeah,
how
they
that
haven't raced since 2009.
It's been a while.
I want to. Okay. So Robbie, I wanted to tell this to you, Justin. We were on Skype one night. We were just bored
Oh,
and talking about a 20 race expansion. So basically, expanding the IndyCar series to a 20 race calendar and having the return of a 500-mile triple crown
yep.
like there was in the past, and the return of Surfers Paradise. So I would put during that Olympic break for NASCAR, a Saturday night Atlanta 500. The Michigan 500 would do an IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader. And then in October, with the supercars at Surfers Paradise during the Gold Coast 600 race weekend, will be the 20th and final race of the calendar.
Fun fact, the IndyCar race used to be the Supercars used to be a support race for the IndyCar weekend over at Surf
Yes.
Paradise. So that would work out famously for those guys. I think the Michigan 500 would definitely do its justice, but I think the one problem is, does the track want IndyCar back, and if so, will they promote the race properly? That's gonna be
Yep.
the only question we have there.
Because we can't forget Auto Club was a disaster in 2015 with the race promotion, and they never recovered.
No, the 2015 promotion for that race was absolutely god awful. When they actually promoted the event as a season finale, it actually drew a pretty decent crowd.
It gave some meaning to it. But I'd say, we need another 500 race. And as for a long time, I feel like there's a lot of cleaning up for the California 500. So why not go to a track that the IRL race back for a few years in the Atlanta Motor Speedway? I know it's mostly known for a big crash that happened off turn 4, but there's always room for a second chance. I mean, in fact, they race at Texas, a sister track. Many people say Texas is more prone to crashing track than Atlanta.
Wait, you said about.
Oh yeah, it's very similar track, and plus they race at Texas. They've done races there. They've done races at Charlotte before. They've done races at these mile and a half tracks. I mean, if we can have another one, I mean that would be okay. Atlanta won't be too bad because the surface is rough. And the cars won't be as compact together as let's say per se Texas would be. So I think there'll be a little bit better racing. I think the tires will degrade a little bit faster. I think that will provide a little bit better racing on longer stints. But we give it a chance. 500-mile race at Atlanta, that might work out. But at the same time, you might have a run into the problems with drivers having tunnel vision at the end of the race.
True. And Justin, you were saying something.
I was saying about Michigan. It was actually only a 500-mile race till 2001. 2002 to 2007, it was a 400-mile race, which was the same distance as a cup race there.
That is correct.
And after 2007, they did not return.
Yeah, and people say it was because of safer. They didn't have too many.
Because of the Franchitti incident. In my opinion, I feel like they should still get another chance.
But they should have had safer barriers. There was no safer barriers on the straightaways yet.
True, but now they have them.
Yeah, and people are talking about Pocono.
Pocono, I mean, to be honest, I feel bad for the whole track itself. They'll be in full song, I'm sure, in 2021. But if you take out a 500-mile race that's not the Indy 500, there should be at least a replacement to it. I like Richmond, don't get me wrong.
For me, it's just the problem about Pocono. You saw the fence, how rusty it was.
Yeah, they didn't do a good job repairing that fence.
They should have repaired it after the Wickens incident, but they did not repair it.
Or do a complete makeover to them. I don't know why they should have been more responsible to that.
No, the wall is not tall enough. Because cars could climb up on top of it, so they should have raised the wall a little bit higher. So I don't want to see another accident at Pocono with somebody in the catch fence, because that was so scary. Robert Wickens was. We thought, remember...
For a brief moment, I thought I witnessed my newest fatality as a race fan.
Yeah,
and luckily that wasn't the case. You hate to see anything like that. As a race fan, I mean, I don't want to get into the dark side of racing, but we've all witnessed the lowest of lows, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think my number one low is probably was the Las Vegas race in 2011.
Oh, that race.
That was...
Oof. Yeah, 34 cars at Las Vegas with a close pack. Oh.
Now, people come out of the woods and say that IndyCar should no longer race at ovals, period, point blank, after the Vegas incident. But here are the reasons why the the disaster happened.
The package. They were so close together.
Package,
I see it going
34
good.
cars, high
Yeah,
stakes, ridiculous
34
promotions.
at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. 34
I mean,
cars
Vegas
in
is not a toxic track.
no
34 cars on Vegas.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're just asking for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, maybe a 22 car race might be a little different.
yeah, but 34.
That's higher. That's one over the Indy 500. It's a little different with the Indy 500. You got a more spacious track.
Yeah, 2.5 miles. This is at 1.5 miles.
And you think about it, the last time they went there, was it 2005?
That was a champ car.
2009.
Okay. There was no progressive banking in 2005,
Yeah. Now in 2011,
which kind of helped spread the cars out.
Yeah, but 2011, there's banking. There was banking. So
Well, they put the banking with progressive banking. I think it was
Yeah.
2006 or 7, one of the
yeah,
other.
like currently at Vegas, if they would race at Vegas, there's.
I mean, it's still not a bad track. Don't get me
it's just
wrong.
the package and 34 cars did not.
Right, and just the high stakes of the championship
Ooh.
race and everything that goes. I mean, listen. I mean, it was an easy thing to do to promote, but like they could go back in the near future. Maybe, of course, they'll do things a lot differently. That also goes with tracks like Kansas Speedway and Chicagoland. I know they used to race there before.
Like that race was supposed to actually be a 200 lap race. Race was actually abandoned on lap number 12, and they did 5 tribute laps around the track in honor of Dan Wells.
I remember that just like it was yesterday. I was 12 years old. But let's talk about other things too, like just going back to other cases, of IndyCar tracks that could come back on the schedule. One that irks me, and as a Boston guy myself, the 2016 Boston Grand Prix was a thing that was going to happen. Supposed to happen. I was actually going to try to go to that race myself, and it didn't work out. They instead moved the race back to Watkins Glen.
Yeah, it was actually scheduled for that day in September. It was scheduled for September 4th. It was actually scheduled, but I don't know what happened. They said it was the race. They were first going to say it's going to be. The race was going to take place on a 2.25 mile route along the South Boston seaport. Then Boston's like, no, 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 no. And they wanted to do another part in Boston, and they said no, 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 and that's yeah. Basically, Boston's like, nope, we don't want a Grand Prix.
They've never had really a major auto race before. That's one thing I realized about major cities. Boston and New York, New York.
Well, New York had a race in 1908,
and they do have that Formula E race.
Yeah, which is only one race, not 2 races now in a weekend. But they had the 1908. New York to Paris thing, which is New York to Paris race, 1908.
How do you go from New York to Paris?
I don't know.
I mean, do they put all the rally cars on a boat?
The winner was actually Thomas Flyer was the car. That was the car that won. The winner was George Shuster, born in 1873. He won that race. And he passed away at age 99 in 1972.
Wow.
99 years old. He passed away at age 99, but...
in those times, most drivers would actually pass away in their 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
Or not pass away, but get killed in a crash.
But you know what's also...
Racing was ugly back then. Just saying.
People, if you don't know, people think, people that race in the first NASCAR season are dead. No. Archie Smith, still alive, age 90, born in 1929.
One season before Herschel McGriff's appearance in the 1950 Southern 500.
So he raced the first race at Charlotte and the 6th race at Martinsville. We finished 6th at Martinsville, 10th at Charlotte that season. 2 races ran. So he's still alive. So there's someone still alive.
I want to move on to the next few things we have on our headlines. The NASCAR Awards banquet that took place in Nashville, Tennessee. Most popular driver award, Chase Elliott. I think it's Plain and simple. He
Well,
is the face of popular um, mainstream trends in NASCAR. People love him,
well, Kyle Busch was actually second most popular somehow.
and people love him too. But they also hate him, and they make that
Bubba,
known. As far as
Bubba
I'm
Wallace was
concerned,
actually one of the top five.
I thought Bubba Wallace would be higher than Kyle Busch.
I at first actually
But Kyle Busch really has won the fans over.
remember before people were booing him in the
I mean, they still
grandstand.
do. You know, the Boo Birds haven't disappeared. They never disappeared, even with Dale Earnhardt. Um, or heck, Jeff Gordon. But
Yep.
I mean, we all learn to respect the good drivers out there. Kyle's definitely one of them. And Ross Chastain was the most popular driver winner for the Truck Series. In Xfinity, was it Allgaier?
Yep, Allgaier.
I'm very surprised it wasn't Gregson. I'm kind of glad
I
it
picked
wasn't.
I picked Allgaier for the Xfinity series, so I'm
And
proud
so
of
do the
that.
Kamikaze games on YouTube. All right, let's move
Not
on.
surprised.
Of course. Um, let's see. Speaking of NASCAR and the Truck Series, final four finalists: Halmar Racing, Jeremiah Stewart Friesen have shifted their manufacturers from Chevys to the Toyota Tundra with KBM engine support for the 2020 Truck Series season. It's the first time the team has switched manufacturers.
Yep. And they'll be having a KBM alliance. So they'll
I don't
have
see that there's going to be a massive problem or a massive benefit. You know, they're going to stay.
they're gonna still be running good. They'll be
Yeah,
running
I mean,
strong.
the team still has homeostasis going on right now,
and
and that means balance.
yeah,
I
and
have to study nutrition.
we're also gonna see Stuart Friesen most likely win races, possibly Eldora again because it
He's
depends.
good on the dirt.
Yeah, but it depends how many dirt ringers are in those races. If you see a lot of
Usually, you get a pretty good,
Chase
like about
Briscoe's gonna
10 to
race.
15 of them.
If you see Chase Briscoe again, well, you'll have
Chase
to
Briscoe was the only guy separating Stuart Friesen from the checkered flag.
Yeah, and then Briscoe pitted at one point, and Friesen stayed out, and Sheldon Creed might be a challenge. I don't know. Why are we talking about Eldora? That's in July 2020. That's in July. We're not in July yet. We're still December.
Okay, so let's move on. And speaking of the truck series, Anthony Alfredo, who was a pretty decent driver at GGR Crosley Racing, team owned by David Gill and Anthony Alfredo, he has moved to Richard Childress Racing, run some part-time races in the 2020 season. In fact, Anthony has been with the World Racing Media on the Bottle Up podcast not once, not twice, but 3 different occasions with Bottle Up Radio, and he's a fixture to our channel. So if you're watching this, Anthony, keep up the good work. We're waiting for you.
And also, thank you.
This should be pretty interesting right there.
4.
I think that'd be a pretty interesting combination right there. I mean, Anthony, this is an Xfinity right now, right?
Yep.
Was part time with Rich Childress.
Yep.
I mean, they put give him some solid efforts. I mean, the guy could be a race winning car. You don't know. I mean, that guy seems like he has some serious talent.
Yeah.
And we didn't.
I didn't really see that coming.
To be fairly honest, we didn't know that Tyler Reddick would not only double, but triple, maybe even quadruple his performance in the 2018 season.
Yeah. We didn't expect him to. People thought, RCR's crappier than
Junior Motorsports, that's a bad move, blah, blah, blah.
and then Tyler Reddick.
It made him do better.
Yeah, Tyler Reddick.
He became face of the team. When in Junior Motorsports, he was going to, there's him and then other competitive drivers at the time, Elliott Sadler, Justin Allgaier.
Yeah.
Now, Reddick had the chance to be the face of an operation, and he excelled through the roof.
Yeah, he really did good.
I mean, we're talking about the stratosphere.
Like,
No, I mean the ionosphere. Finally found the word for it. Okay, moving on. Let's see what else we got here. Looking around here. All right, let's talk supercars now. 2 things. We'll start with the littlest from small to big. Tim Slade has joined DJR Team Penske to become the co-driver for Scott McLaughlin during the Enduro races for the Pertec Enduro Cup of 2020. So Tim Slade will no longer be in a full-time ride. He'll just be a co-driver for endurance races.
So that means Premont is not going to be returning
Yeah.
to McLaughlin.
Prema.
Yeah, where's he going to go now? Is he going to be? Is like now out of a ride? Is this now the end of the road for him? I would imagine, but it seemed like he really didn't perform excelled as much as Scott McLaughlin did on the endurance races. From what I saw, it seemed like he was the kind of guy that just kept it off the wall for like 20 laps.
Right. But I think Tim Slade, he deserves it. It's a shame that he got released from his team, and we'll just see where things land. And speaking of supercars, 5-time Bathurst 1000 champion Stephen Richards, son of Jim Richards, has retired from supercars competition. He last won the Bathurst 1000 in 2018 as a co-driver to Craig Lowndes, which was a very, very good run. And Stephen Richards, it was such a solid driver, and it's going to suck to see him go after what he did. Now, I'm not the biggest supercars guy. I mean, this is the first time I watched a full supercar season, and I can't wait to watch more. But he has 451 races under his belt, and began racing in 1995.
Well, that's a long time.
Yeah, he's the son of Jim Richards from Auckland, and he has 12 wins, 60 podiums, and believe it or not, only 6 career poles.
That's still a pretty solid driver, though. They get 5 Bathurst wins.
His first Bathurst 1000 was in 1995, driving for Gibbs Motorsports and Holden. And
Quite interesting right there.
Yeah. And in fact, he finished second in 97 for Gary Rogers Motorsport with his dad as the co-driver, Jim Richards. And then second again. In fact, if you remember, 1997 to 1998, there were 2 Bathurst 1000s, one for the touring cars and one for the supercar series. And in 1998, he finished second behind his father because Jim Richards won with Rickard Rydell in the Volvo. Stephen Richards with Matt Neal in the Ford Falcon finished second in that. I mean, the Nissan Primera, my bad. But they won in the Ford Falcon in the supercars version of the race that same calendar year with Jason Bright as a co-driver, and won it again in 99. So basically, he was on a podium streak from 97 to 2000 and finished second again in 2002. He won 3 times more in 2013 with Mark Winterbottom, 2015 with Craig Lowndes, and again with Craig Lowndes in 2018 for Triple Eight. That's all solid. Very solid.
That's a pretty solid driver, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah. He won the 2000. I'll get you in a moment, Austin. He won the 2002 Bathurst 24 Hours. Started first. He was first in class. He also finished second the very next year with the same 3 co-drivers, Tanner, Pretty, and McConnville. Austin, who was saying something?
Oh, it was me.
I didn't say something.
Oh.
He goes me. I was interrupting you. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I was going to say, it's a pretty solid driver because, 5 Bathurst wins, that doesn't come naturally, man. That requires a lot of talent. I think he was a pretty good driver. We drive with Craig Lowndes. Craig Lowndes, that was a popular win last year. I don't know if you saw the race.
Craig Lowndes is my favorite driver of all time in supercars. I've always been a fan.
Who isn't? I think he's a good, pretty historic right there. Probably one of the best in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Name me someone else better.
I mean, he's a 3-time champion, has 109 career wins, 42 pole positions, 166 podiums, and his Bathurst record's unbelievable. He's won his first start was 1994. His first win was 1996 with Greg Murphy as a co-driver, and then he won 3 in a row with Jamie Whincup from 2006 to 2008. And then won with Mark Scaife in 2010. Won with Stephen Richards 2015. And then 2018 with Stephen Richards again.
such an amazing, astounding career, man. I mean, that was a popular win when he won in 2018. I think it was,
Seven-time winner.
and I also think that was his last full time season. I think now he's an
Correct.
endurance driver now.
Yes, he's with Jamie Wincup.
But that's a pretty solid duo right there.
Oh yeah, because Jamie Wincup's he pushed hard, and one thing I know about Wincup is, he's not the kind of guy to quit. Many people say that he's no longer in his prime, but I know in his last few races, like Gold Coast and especially Sandown and in the second half of the Newcastle 500, you can't look away from J Dub. He's got what it takes, and he's looking for that 8th championship. Chasing it. Can it happen? He's so close.
He is. I mean, if it wasn't for the dominance that Scott McLaughlin had the whole season, which I'm not going to complain about Scott McLaughlin playing, that was pretty cool. I think Jamie Wincup could have had a lot more say in the press and a lot more say in the results that he had. But it was like he was always right behind Scott McLaughlin when it came to race wins and podiums.
Yeah, Ford had the upper end. I tell you.
Yep.
And that's because I think the transition to the Mustang this year was better than many people thought.
Yeah, because they had the Falcon for a number of years, and then they switched to the Mustang finally this year.
And also Scott McLaughlin, he surprised many people in his first season with
Second here.
With DJR Team Penske because
excuse me.
No, you're fine.
No, because he was with Volvo and Gary Rogers Motorsport from 2014. Actually, from 2013, he ran a few races. 2012 and 2013. Actually, he ran the full 2013 season, finished 10th in the standings, and scored his first win at home at Pukekohe with Gary Rogers, and again at Queensland, and then the team moved to Volvo and had Polestar S60 support, and they ripped it off right away in Adelaide with that second place finish. If you remember that battle with Wincup at Adelaide, the Clipsal 500, and they went
Adelaide. I barely remember that weekend. I always forget how that race, but that's a season opener usually.
Yeah,
I remember that. Refresh my memory there.
Ballpark, which I think was just amazing. And then, of course, he went on to win the Perth race, and again at Sydney and Phillip Island twice, and finished 5th in the championship. Had a weak 2015, went winless, 8th, and then 2016 he ripped it out of the ballpark, sweeping Phillip Island. And even though those were his only 2 wins, he had a great run at Bathurst before getting hit by Wincup and finished 3rd in the standings, and barely lost the championship in his first season with Ford and DJR Team Penske after leaving Gary Rogers and Volvo. Mm-hmm. 2nd place, just barely by Wincup. It was, if not for that penalty, he would have won the title. And then, of course, 2018, he won it over Van Giesberg. In 2019, he just unbelievably he ripped it out of the park. 18 wins. I mean, we praise drivers that have 5 wins, 8 wins. But
that is 18.
I mean, listen, this is like Lewis Hamilton kind of stuff. It's even better than Hamilton.
Except that's more F1. This is supercars.
And there's more competition.
Yeah. And lots of double headers, sometimes triple or quadruple headers.
Yeah, because this is it's not like at least there's more competition compared to F1. There's Williams, which they're not competitive. Alfa Romeo, they're not competitive to win. Toro Rosso, they can't win, I don't think. Or Alpha Tori, sorry, not Toro Rosso, Alpha Tori.
New name.
And Racing Point, they're not competitive. Renault, McLaren will be competitive with the.
They're growing.
But Renault,
they're coming along.
But I don't think they're going to be winning races next year. I think it's still going to be Mercedes, Ferrari, or Red Bull. It's either three.
Yeah, and Mercedes has done so much right now that's helping them.
What's even
Red
going to
Bull,
further help is the World Championship results. I mean, at the end of the year, the construction standings, McLaren scored so many points that they're going to get so much more money from the FIA as a prize money package that, that's going to help them really develop their cars for next year.
yeah,
Exactly.
better than Williams.
Oh, for sure.
Williams 1 point. They
1 point.
barely get any money. Their cars are
So
good.
I'm just gonna look and see if there's anything else we got here to talk about. Let's see. Oh yes, going back to supercars for a split second. Um, Brody Kostecki and Will Brown will be the enduro drivers for Penrite Racing and Erebus Motorsport.
Oh.
So it looks like we don't see the Kostecki brothers together, or actually cousins, but the team is called Kostecki Brothers Racing.
Yeah.
And Jake and Brody, they're Super 2 drivers, but so there you have that. Now back to what were we talking about? Formula One.
You're talking about how
George
Brown.
Russell should, I mean, my opinion, he should move to another team.
What happens? Like, I would like to see him at Racing Point. Racing Point has more competitive.
And they got the Mercedes Alliance. So
Yeah, it's
go
better
for it.
Like, Williams has the Mercedes, but they're slow. You've seen how slow the Williams are on the straights.
I mean, they're like the HRT F1 team, if you remember them back in 2012.
HRT,
When
Virgin
Pedro de la
Racing.
Rosa and Narain Carthagena could not do literally anything in qualifying and always guaranteed to be the last cars physically on the racetrack.
You met the cucumber. Narain Carthagena, the cucumber.
Yes. I do miss him, though. I wonder. And of course, the other guy that drove from Karun Chandok.
Hey,
Now works for Sky.
remember Narain
Mm-hmm.
Carthagena when he raced in NASCAR for Stacey
2010 most
Compton?
popular driver.
He drove the number 60 for Stacey Compton. I don't even know what his best finish was. Let me go.
All I remember is like his one good race was Bruin in Talladega when he crashed with Hornaday, sending Hornaday in the air, flipping.
Oh yeah.
That race is also known for the closest finish in Truck Series history when Kyle Busch beat Eric Almirola.
Narain Carthagena's actually.
Even though he still went below the WO line.
That's a debate still up for today. I mean, if Justin Haley shouldn't
Yeah.
get, or if he got penalized,
Move the WO line,
then
Lou.
Kyle
Enough
Busch should have
said.
gotten penalized too.
Please get rid of it.
But that was like Casey Kane,
So many
lying to
damn
win.
wrecks because of that. It cost so many wins
Narain Carthagena
or positions.
Born in 1977, he's raced 9 truck races at age 33. In 9 starts, 0 wins, 0 top 5, 0 top 10, 0 poles. His best starting spot is 9th. His best finish is 11th at Texas, at race number 8. His worst finish came at Kansas. He crashed on lap number 7. Really good in his second start. He finished 13th in his first truck start at Martinsville.
It's not a bad one, especially at Martinsville of all places.
His F1 career, 5 points. 5 points. Hey,
But for the teams he drove for, that's not a bad career.
hey, at least he had
Some
better
people race like years in F1 and not even score a point.
like Scott Speed had no points. Remember when remember when Sergei Sirotkin got 1 point in 2018 for Williams? He got 1 point.
I forgot Lorraine Carthagena racing the trucks.
Eli Manning's on fire, guys, if in case anyone
Yeah, I
cares.
just saw it.
Yeah, that's a nice touchdown. Darius Slayton.
Hey, Narain Carthagena ran 1 Le Mans 24, driving for Audi. Started 14th, finished 7th.
I didn't know he was an Audi driver. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
He
What
drove
year?
2009. 24.
Oh, the year they lost to Peugeot.
Yeah.
10 years, man, time flies. I remember that race.
He also raced in A1 Grand Prix in 40 starts, 2 wins, 3 podiums, 1 pole, 36 laps led, average start of 11, average finish of 10.3. He got 890 grand out of his 40 races in A1. 890 grand in those he completed 968 laps. The races he ran the most in the season was 2007, 2008. He ran but 2 races. He ran 18 in 2007 out of 20, 12 out of 14 in 2008. He ran 10 out of 22 in 2006. F1, he raced the full season, only got 5 points. 2011, 2012, he ran 8 races in 2011, 0 points. 2012 ran 19 out of 20 races, 0 points.
Interesting. I'm trying to see what else we got here. See, Starworks LMP2 team reopening for 2020. Nice to see them back.
Yep.
It is nice to see them back. I wonder what's going to happen with the Audi program now that they're going to LMP2 racing. But it's nice to see the LMP2 field starting to grow a little bit.
Yeah, many people do question like, why is the LMP2 field so short? Well, you're just noticing it now since the P class prototype split apart due to regulation changes. Now that the DPIs are independent and the LMP2s are there, so you start to see why there's only like 3 LMP2s.
Also, about IMSA,
But it's growing. Go on, Justin.
Dixon is confirmed to run the endurance races. Race 1, 2, 6, and 12,
Michelin Endurance Cup.
which is basically Daytona, Sebring, Watkins Glen, and Petit Le Mans, which is Road Atlanta. Tomoe Kobayashi will run 1 race, the Rolex 24 Daytona, while the rest of the season will be driven by Ryan Briscoe and Ranger Van der Zandt. Will be racing the races that are like just them.
Yeah, the entire reason.
Yeah,
season.
they're running. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to mention it. Those of you not familiar with the Daytona 24 hours, you can have 4 drivers per car.
Yeah. Mike Conway will run also at Daytona in the 31 Cadillac, which he was confirmed, which he only races Daytona. Because all the other races he's in the WEC series.
Yeah, Mike Conway's moving around. He's going to be with the Wheeling Engineering 31.
Bush will drive a AIM Vassar Sullivan car next year.
Lexus RCF GT3. Should be fun. Gee, a lot. Aston Martin brought back their GT3 program to North America. I think that's going to be fun to watch.
Now, which team are they going to be confirmed with that entry? Or they didn't even confirm anything yet with that?
It is confirmed. Sure.
Oh, no, they confirmed they're going in, but which team are they going to partner with here?
That's true. We saw a new Lamborghini team open up with Catherine Legg and Christina Nielsen. So those two might
Geargrasser Racing team.
There might be a spot open for Meyershank Racing.
Hey, there's a new team that opened in the GT class. The Heart of Racing team in an Aston Martin Vantage.
Oh, there you go, Robbie. It's them.
That's our confirmation.
The Aston Martin team racing will have Wright Motor. You know, AIM Vassar Sullivan Racing. It's actually a Canadian team. It's a Canadian team, which is interesting. Which is weird because Jimmy Vassar's from California. But I don't know where AIM Vassar.
AIM.
It depends. Maybe the guy that's Sullivan. I don't know who Sullivan is.
Could be.
Danny
Sullivan? Probably not.
No, I don't think. I don't know.
Let me see if else I got listed here. Connor Daly. We already talked about Connor Daly. Oh yeah,
Connor Daly. Yeah, about the news we came out today.
Yeah, I would like to mention though that Connor Daly really he deserves that full-time season.
Yep.
Well, yeah, we did bring it up earlier that it was going to be should be in a full-time ride, but I think that this is a good footstep for him. He deserves to be in a full-time ride. I mean, that guy delivers consistent results. I mean, that guy's a hell of a driver.
And I would definitely would like to mention that. Let's go back to endurance racing because the FIA World Endurance Championship took away the race in Brazil, Interlagos.
I did see that, and they're going back to Coda.
Yeah, and the date has changed too. I'm very happy they changed the date because then they would have conflicted with the Super Bowl and the Bathurst 12 hours.
Well, that's good. We're not conflicting with the Bathurst 12 hours then. That's a pretty good race.
Oh yeah, I watched the last few ones. They're always a fun to watch.
Well, it's going to be a pretty good season, I think, for WC. I think we're going to look forward to a lot of good racing. And also this weekend, I don't know if you're going to be available, you guys, but I'm going to be streaming the race over at Bahrain coming up on Saturday morning.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, definitely come on Skype and we'll definitely screen share the race. And
Oh yeah,
everything.
go ahead, come on Skype with us.
Yeah.
If you guys like Skype, you know where to find us. I know there's like no one watching, but like y'all personal, so.
Mhm.
I know, yeah, but it's yeah, I'll definitely screen share the race. That race is gonna be pretty cool. 8 hours. I mean, I'm gonna get my glory for that for those times.
Yeah, or 7 a.m. Eastern time is the start for us.
Yeah, 7 a.m. So I'll be up bright and early.
Yeah, I'm probably wake around at 5 a.m. Take a nice slow shower.
Won't be a problem for me because I got a job interview the day before at 9 o'clock. So I'll be
Oh wow.
looking forward to getting up early again on Saturday for a race.
See, I don't know. I want to refrain from saying this because I know you and David Land hit it off all the time. But if you keep coming on the show, that means David Land is gonna someday be the hands on the back of the rope coming with you.
I think I should drag David on the show one time.
Yeah,
That'd
we
be
gotta
great.
get David on here.
He's already been on here to the show?
He is not, but he would sure make a great guest.
Oh, he will. He'll be more talkative than I am.
Yes, and especially with the IndyCar conversations, he would get all into this stuff, Pocono and everything. The Indy 500. Remember when the teams wanted provisionals for the Indy 500? He was heated against that.
He was going hammered on that one. He did not hold back whatsoever. And now that Roger Penske owns the track, I think it's going to be more now like, okay, he wants to make Bump Day as profitable as possible. I would not think that he would want to make guaranteed spots for his own good benefit. So I think that
I would hate that. Would be like selfish, in my opinion, if anyone would do that.
It would be. You're right.
So let's see where else we can lead off to, because I know we don't have that much to cover, and usually we have like a lot to talk about in the podcast. So I'm just gonna look and see the old headlines pages from the last episode. So yeah, we get you Stanaway. Of course, he announced retirement. See. Oh yeah, the Homestead situation. Did you know that 3 teams, Ricker Racing, Premium Motorsports, and Spire Motorsports, got fined $50,000 for race manipulation controversy at the Homestead race, with the goal to gain owner points.
Yep. Team orders. Sorry, Daniel.
I'm sure he's watching.
Was this over them starting parking their cars purposely to guarantee
You're right.
enough points for a charter?
Yes.
Then you might as well penalize Richard Childress and Hendrick Motorsports back in the day, where they start and park their cars just to guarantee Earnhardt and Gordon championship. I mean, come on, it's the same deal here.
Yeah. Here's another funny situation. The 2004 Rockingham race, which unfortunately is the last ever race at Rockingham in the Cup Series, Joe Ruttman had no pit crew in starting park.
I thought it was 2003.
Mm-mm.
That was.
That was yep. Starting parking is not something that's new to NASCAR. In fact, back in the mid 2000s, a lot of the teams would start and park. They would get their cars to qualify for the race. They would run a few laps, and they would just park the cars and save for next weekend.
And what did they do? They make money.
Made a lot of money off of that. I mean, my God, they made hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars doing that.
And they come back with safe race cars.
And I think nowadays they kind of frown upon that, unfortunately, and it results to not only more wrecked cars, but more expenses and less teams willing to build cars in the
I
grid.
think you have to strategically start and park for those who unfortunately have to do it, such as RSS Racing. Ryan Sieg probably has the best example of strategic start and parking. He doesn't always start and park the cars. Like, for example, you watch the Xfinity race from Daytona this year. Jeff Green, who usually starts and parks, finished in the top 10, ran the top 10 most the entire time, almost won a race at Talladega last year, was in it to win in the last green white checker.
Yeah, the only car most weeks that Starn parks for the team is JJ Alien the 38. Which one thing he got was the last place award. He got more.
Oh,
last
yeah,
place
last
than
car,
David.
which is Brock Beard, if you
Yeah, he
watch
got.
his
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah,
He's also a legend,
he got
sort
a
of.
lot of last place finishes, and a lot of people still criticize Joe Gibbs moving up in the Cup Series, even if they said he didn't do anything. He
Who?
didn't even get a JJ Aley did not even get a top 10 in the Busch Series in points. He got 11. And they still gave him a ride. They said to reorganize the inner battery.
Kyle Busch doubled everything JJ Yaley did in his 2 years with Gibbs and Bush's first year with Gibbs. Probably quadrupled it.
Like he
8
didn't
wins.
do anything. He did 0 wins. Like
I think like 5 top 10s in 2 seasons.
his best finish was second
Yes.
at
And if you remember that race,
the Coke 600 2007.
Kyle Petty finished third of all people. And Casey
Fourth-
Mears of all people won the race. It was pretty
Sorensen
wild.
got fourth. Brian Vickers fifth. Sorensen got fourth. Then Vickers behind him got fifth. But Kyle Petty getting a third. But JJ Yaley and Casey, I don't know why they decided to pull that fuel strategy. And
It worked for those guys, clearly.
What happens if Casey Mears would have ran out of fuel? JJ Yaley.
I remember what happened. I would. Hey, if
No.
the race actually, because Mears did run out of fuel on the cooldown lap on the backstretch.
That would have been funny.
So yeah, it would have happened. You know, I remember earlier that day, I was 8 years old, and Dario Franchitti won his first of 3 Indy 500s under a storming rainstorm.
Oh yeah,
Remember that race?
yeah, like it was
Rusty
yesterday.
Wallace in the booth. Marco
Rusty
Andretti
Wallace in the
flipping on
booth.
the backstretch.
Rusty Wallace covering the race. Well, that wasn't the race where he blew it at the end.
He called the most exciting Daytona 500 finish in the 2006 Indy 500.
Yep.
Oh my god, the
Yeah.
Daytona 500. So confirmed, the Daytona 500 is now at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's like, remember when Marty Reed used to say, remember Ryan Blaney was taking the white flag and
That was the straw that broke the camel's back with ESPN.
yeah, Marty Reed always did something like that.
But he was a good commentator. They're all good commentators.
I remember instead of saying Carl Edwards was leading at Texas. Instead of saying 1.5 miles at Texas, he said 1.5 miles at Charlotte. We're at
Hey, it's not that hard to confuse the two tracks.
But it said on the wall. It said Texas. Right on the wall, Texas. I'm like, what?
I mean, after all, Charlotte is the first track to have a quad oval 1.5 miles.
Yeah, I remember.
You know, Homestead will be racing in March for the first time.
Yep.
It's going to be a better race than many people think.
And Ford is not.
Yeah,
even
most
gonna-
quite interesting.
And Ford's not even going to sponsor anymore. It's going to be vodka, Dixie Vodka. That's going to be sponsoring the weekend at Homestead, the Dixie Vodka 400. So everybody start buying Dixie Vodka to support the race. But
Or a local Florida brand for all we know.
yeah, probably Dixie Vodka. Yeah, probably.
All right, so we are in the on the home stretch of this podcast. We are about to wrap things up. So, do you guys have any last things you want to say? Anything you want to talk about?
Wait, tune into
Not really.
Tune into the races, which is only the 8 hours of Bahrain. If it's on TV, search it on your TV. If you can't get it on your TV channels, look for a live stream on Twitch. Don't trust YouTube because FIA will do.
Or Robbie could be a nice guy and join us on Skype and share your screen.
That's what I'm going to do. Share the screen because I paid for the subscription for the season. So
Oh.
Nice. I gotta pay for my NASCAR NBC subscription. This new thing they're coming up with in 2020.
I can't get that because I'm in Canada, which the only thing I have to do is basically watch the race on TV and go on my TSN website and watch practice. Most practices are on there.
Mhm.
That's basically what I'm doing. In IndyCar, I don't even know if I can watch that yet.
Yeah, we'll just stick with
Sportsnet's-
Twitch.
Sportsnet's deal is crap, and it's proving it because they were really.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And yeah, I know I'm not that big of a fan of some of their decisions lately, and that's on the
Yeah.
hockey side of things.
Yeah. They have a new ticker which looks odd, like the like everything's small, which I don't like. Yeah.
The
People
cutting
do.
corners.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got up there.
All right, guys. I think that will be our night. For our special guest, Robbie Noonan, Austin Plante, Justin Hemmer. I'm Joseph Lanny Pavlon. Thank you for watching episode 36. See you next week.
Um,